It is Matthew Jennings here. What's up, everybody?
Hey everybody, how's it going? Good to hear your voice, my man.
What's up? Let's do this.
Ready or not, here they come. Be sure to visit schoolstatus.com, peachjar.com, nickelstrategies.com, and s'more.com. Advocating for public education, sharing our stories, and celebrating our schools, students, and staff. From crisis communications to media relations, social media, and everything in between, we're here to give you the best strategies, tools, and techniques to help you help your community. Welcome to the School PR Podcast, brought to you by Peach Jar, School Status, Nickel Strategies, and s'more. Love 'em or leave 'em. Here's your hosts, Matthew Jennings and Ryan Ferran.
All right. Matthew, I know you really want to talk about the opening of college football season in the NFL, but we can't talk just football today, right?
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Yeah. In fact, you know what? That's fine. Let's not talk about that at all.
I did catch some of the game last night. Colorado.
State.
Dion.
What was it?
Prime
Football?
time. Yeah, football.
Oh, that's cool. I bet that was exciting. And did you have anybody over to watch the game?
No, I watched it after work. I got home late and watched a replay of it. You know, it's interesting though. Deion Sanders, famous NFL Hall of Fame football player, is kind of taking over. Colorado was there last year. Big news, getting all this media attention. CBS 60 Minutes did 2 profiles. He had a game day from ESPN there, Fox, the whole kickoff show. And last week he made a lot of news because of, he was upset with the reporter and basically said, I'm not answering any questions from you and your outlet, which he got a lot of flack for, but it was kind of interesting.
We like to do that in our jobs. Sorry, I'm not taking questions from you. Go
right.
away.
Yeah. It made me think of the PR angle and where kind of he messed up. And I see presidential folks and people that are running and where, in my opinion, they make the mistakes. But sometimes too, it's like, I wonder if they know they're making a mistake and just don't care.
Yeah.
Or they're just.
And if they don't care, do they not care because they think they're just above reproach, or do they not care because they just honestly don't care? Like there's a lot of layers to that. Have you ever told a reporter, "Hey, I'm just not taking your questions"?
Oh, I don't think so. To that kind of a statement, but I've had one that was very looking for a story. It was I don't know how much of a journalism outlet they worked for, but there were some conversations. This was the one time in my career, and I think I'm going to do a session on this. I'm kind of piecing it together in my head because you and I did a very interesting, polarizing podcast last year about speaking with the media off the record.
Yeah.
And we there's differing opinions in our field about that. And you and I kind of have one opinion, others have another. And, a lot of people are somewhere in the middle. But there's the one time I asked a reporter if I can speak to them off the record, and they said no. And so I've only had that happen once out of many times. And I thought that was very fascinating. But I knew where I stood and my boundaries and my guidelines. So that was kind of interesting. But the only time that I've had that happen.
I didn't ever tell anybody that I wouldn't take your questions, but I have told one reporter, I'm only now responding to you in writing. And it was a reporter that was just always out looking for that angle to get the dig in. And no matter what I said, no matter what any of my staff said, no matter what parents said, there was always an agenda. And it got really overwhelming. And I even went to the editor of the paper, and I pointed out issues that I had over the course of about a year and a half. And actually action was taken on that, which was really, really good. But inside that year, I moved to in writing only with this reporter. And I was just very upfront about it. I said, I'm only going to be able to answer your questions in writing from this point on.
That's smart, because then you can't be taken out of context.
Nope.
They cannot. Yeah, that's actually I've never heard that, but that is a very smart strategy.
It's not a great relationship after that, right?
No.
And so it was really last ditch effort. And ultimately, it turns out that that person just didn't need to be on the education beat anyway and was pulled. But it really was a Hail Mary. I was exasperated and totally exhausted with just the negative attention. And so, I wouldn't suggest everyone do that. But if you get to the end of your rope and you really don't see another recourse, and you are seeing that you're blatantly misportrayed, it cleaned that up real quick.
I think you made I think that's a genius decision because you still want to get your side, your district in there, but you don't want to be taken out of context and they have an agenda. Here, I'll still give you information, but it'll be through writing. So I have a copy, you have a copy, and we're very clear, both sides.
Yep.
I think the difficult part now is I have a colleague, this person. I don't know if you talked to them about it, but was dealing with a reporter and major air quotes thrown up if you can't see. But there's a lot of outlets now where they don't have a journalism background or they're writing opinion pieces and they have an opinion and they're not coming for that story from an unbiased perspective. They have an agenda.
Yep.
And so it is very hard to work with somebody using traditional media relations journalistic standards when they're not using them. But they're still claiming they're a reporter, they're a writer, they're with a media outlet. And you're like, well, you put information
on a blog,
whether how accurate.
Social.
You publish it somewhere, but does that make you a reporter or a journalist? No, it doesn't.
Yep.
But as public entities, we still have to respond. So that's the tricky part too, is, working with reporters, talking off the record is like, do they have the same integrity? Do they know what that means? Because they didn't go to journalism school. They're writing something to get clicks.
And the outcome of that, the potential consequences are significant. And, I'm actually seeing in media now, I've talked to reporters that are realizing like the culpability that they have in how they cover certain events now, right? Like, so somebody that's not been through that training, not been in the trenches like that doesn't understand that their reach can really stir up emotions, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. I had a community member in a previous district whose mission was just to cover the board meeting and look for anything that could be mistaken out of context and make sure it was mistaken out of context, right? And then started a social media group just for that reason. And then the problem was just blatant misinformation out in the community. And the repercussions of that could be pretty significant. People pulling kids out of school, or, you've got people showing up, speak a public comment completely uninformed. So that's the interesting thing that I'm seeing now is really the culpability behind, when you have a reach, when you have a following, it's because I don't know if you kind of felt this, but I felt like before we got into COVID, we'd have these, tragic event like a school shooting, and media would run out there and immediately, like while the event's unfolding, have yearbook photos of this student, have names and, blasting stuff out there. And I can't remember the poor kid's name, but one of them, if you remember, was incorrect and they had the wrong kid and it wasn't the shooter. And they were blasting this kid, and it was, I want to say maybe 6-7 years ago now, but they blew this kid up online, and it wasn't the kid. I mean, I don't know, should follow up on that story to see if his life just wasn't totally ruined by that. But, there was this push to like just be first, not be accurate, and then clean up the details later. And I'm feeling a little bit more like, especially with the divisive political scene that we have going on in the country, at least the media outlets that are right in the middle of the road, they're doing a little bit better job of trying to get back to that, like, unbiased, realizing like, hey, we have culpability here. we have the power to incite riots at this point. We need to be really careful with how we're portraying the information we have.
Yeah, it brings up there is a push to get back to middle of the road, unbiased reporting. And I think, I was listening to something recently where CNN's trying to make a push to get back to the middle again and be that trusted. We'll give you both sides, and we'll have a Democrat on, we'll have a Republican on. And I think there's a hunger for that.
Yeah.
Which is good, but also it's so hard though. The bias stuff, it reinforces people's opinion, and people eat it up, and it's what's getting advertisers and it's moving the needle. But I agree, there are outlets trying to get back in the middle because people just really, a lot of people want just unbiased. Let me make up my mind. Just give me the facts, man. I'm so
Yeah.
sick of the biased arguments. And but your point about the school shootings years ago, it was like, okay, let's talk about the victim for the first few days, that first week. But the news cycle has sped up so much, to your point, because people want to be the first to report the name, what went wrong. So on day one, bodies aren't even taken care of yet. People are still in the hospital, like, waiting to get help. And they're like, whose fault is this? What happened? And this news cycle is so fast. But that's why it's so important for school districts and any organization to have your own media, to have your own voice. And, you have your websites, you have your social media, so you can counter that speed. You can control the speed again. Like, hey, you want to talk about what went wrong? We're still worried about victims and helping people. So you can go ahead and start pointing fingers. We're not helping with that. We're helping with the families. We're getting them information and resources. So go ahead, go Mach 5. We're not going with your speed. But when you have your own voice, you're using your own email, you have your direct audience, that's the importance of the control you do have. Because as you mentioned, a lot of times you don't have control because they have their own ideas, agendas, and it makes it really difficult now with media relations.
Yep, absolutely. And on that note, like I'll double down just a little bit and take it one step further. I did have in previous district, this social media group that kind of went rogue, popped up, and there was a lot of misinformation on there. And I was, for whatever reason, I was accepted into the group, and I don't think it was realized that the district PIO, the district shill, was part of this Facebook group, right? But I was able to monitor it, and I was really disheartened to see like just blatant misinformation, and it would get spun up, and it would a post would get 50, 60, 200 comments like really quickly throughout a day and get people riled up. And so what I did was I found out the moderator, and I just reached out directly to this parent. I said, hey, I would love to set up a monthly meeting. You and I get together, coffee, I'll buy, come into the district. You can ask questions. I'll share upcoming information. And I'd love to have a relationship. And that person was totally open to that. And we met once a month. And then there were a lot of times where something would blow up in that community group, and they would reach out to me and just say, hey, what's going on? Is this really the way this is going? I said, no, let me point you to the resources. Let me get you links, whatever it is, to the website, whatever. And then they would go back in and share that and kind of start quelling the storm. So it's tricky with the reach that people have and how easy it is to get your agenda out there and misinform the public. Then we have this whole AI stuff going on now too, and deepfakes and everything else. And I just don't see it getting any easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's very smart though, because those community Facebook groups are kind of the bane of a lot of people's existence. And some moderators love getting the comments and clicks, and that's whatever brings them joy and happiness for whatever reason.
Yeah, I hit this moderator that really came in our first meeting. I was terrified. I didn't know what I was inviting in, but I just remember we had a really, really great meeting. We left on really good terms, and then would text. We would meet once a month, but we would text almost every single week. It ended up being a really good thing.
I think that's another wise strategy by you, is like, well, let me try. The worst thing that happens is I reach out and they say, go pound sand, and I don't want to talk to you. But, you had an open relationship. You got to get your voice in there. I'm sure they didn't agree with you 100%, but it's way better than not being a part of that conversation.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about another one that failed. So in the same vein, right? In the same vein, just cautionary tale here. But I had, the community member that I mentioned before, who made it their sole existence. I don't know. This is like just their focus, and it was always looking for the problems and the red flags. Had made an unsuccessful, run for the board, and I decided that it might be good to pull this person into, because I'm just feeling there's a lot of misinformation out there. And what I decided to do was put together a small little advisory council I wanted 4 people on this little advisory council that would help me do my job better just district-wide communications strategies, just a group that we would get together, every couple of months or whatever, and talk about current happenings, events, different things. And all of my 4 people that I reached out to separately were like, that's brilliant. I love that. I'm all in. But then when the group found out who was going to be in a group, it instantly fell apart and never came to fruition because nobody wanted to be in the room with each other. But that's an example of one that I tried to kind of bring the loud voices into the circle, and it just didn't work. But what I find a lot is they're loud because they just don't understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this, I hear this a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I hear people say, "Oh, the board just rubber stamps." The
Oh, for
board just
sure.
no. The board talks about this. The board analyzes things. Good boards, right? Okay, I can't blanket statement like every school board out there is doing a really good job, but I was really lucky to work in 3 school districts with phenomenal school boards and really good leadership. But I find that a lot of times it's just that they don't realize or understand how it works. And so bringing those loud voices into the fold and educating them about even public comment. I mean, you've heard it, like people think the board's just sitting there stoic and they don't care about us because they don't respond. And it's because people don't realize that the board can't respond on things that aren't on the agenda, right? So just little things like that sometimes can really help.
Yeah. And one of the biggest educations people will ever get is when they're armchair quarterbacking at home. They think the board is doing this or that, or superintendent, or this position, this admin. And then they become on the board, and then they go, oh, wow, here's a 800-page handbook of things I can't do, all the legalese, the state laws, our policies. And they go, oh, I can't spend that money in 19 different places. Why aren't we building a stadium there? Why aren't we building a gym there? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we giving them raises? Because money doesn't grow on trees. So they get a vast education, and they go, okay, I was a little hard on these people because it is a very difficult job.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to go back to real quick is, this Facebook groups, they drive people crazy. But one thing you can do is you can start your own community Facebook group. Not everyone has the right to your city and Facebook group. So you can start a school district Facebook group similar to what they have. It can be a forum to help parents. You can create any kind of group you want for your city, your region, your county, and say, hey, this is a positive forum. We're going to provide, factual information, and, this is to support each other. I know districts that have done that and have been very successful. And, that helps kind of counter the other groups that if they remain negative or whatever, but why can't you start your own group? You can do that. And I've seen it done very successfully. So
good point.
You don't always have to sit back and be reactive. You can be proactive and take that approach as well.
Guess that's the name of the game, right? Yeah. Be proactive where you can, for sure. I think that makes a big difference and can really help your stress level.
Yeah.
And we have enough in our jobs.
It's like taking some action, being proactive. Let me try some things instead of always like, oh man, how are we going to deal with this? I have this reporter. I can't reach out to them, try and talk to them. There's all these Facebook groups, create your own, get positive community conversations going in Facebook. So yeah, will it always work? No, but you don't know till you try. And if it does work, you're going to be super thankful, and you're going to have a great platform to amplify your voice, the facts, and help support your students and staff, which is the whole point.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, we hopped on with nothing on the bullet point sheet on the rundown for the producers. So producers took the day off, and that's okay. They deserve it. Well earned day.
Yeah, we got it done. Well, hopefully people find this conversation helpful. It's cool.
It's tough. I mean, the digital landscape's getting tougher. The media is getting tougher. And I think it helps people to kind of know some options, some strategies, and just start thinking through it creatively. And I'm sure there's some things that we didn't say that people are like, why not try this? Why not try that? So,
hey, you know what I saw yesterday? It's going to make things even more difficult. We've had, there's been districts that have run into difficulty with some of the AI technology out there and some of the deepfake stuff. There's a company that just rolled out. I was reading the article yesterday afternoon. Just rolled out live deepfake. So That's a thing now. So like you and I could be on the screen right now and I could be Tom Cruise and it would look just like you were sitting here interviewing Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise's voice and his face and everything. And it's live now. It's not something
Wow.
you have to do in post production, which is kind of where it's been for a long time. So moving into the live space, which I just don't see any benefit of except for nefarious purposes, but you know.
You know what is shocking to me though? The deep fakes. I see the videos. I see them on sports stuff. People all the time with these fake interviews and these outlets. They become so quickly. You already recognize how fake they are, and it's like I'm over them already. And it's they've been out for like 2 months, and I'm like I don't care. It don't impress me. Oh, you put some other words in somebody, so it's like I don't even think they were funny for like the first day, and now I'm like I'm over that. It's
Yeah.
just not that creative anymore. Like it's
No, no, it's lame. It's not very demure and mindful.
no, it's just too easy. It's like the easy joke, right? It's just like
Yeah.
it's like
Are you following the demure trend?
no.
Oh man, how have you missed that? It's ridiculous. You got to check that. What is the matter with you? How are you not seeing that?
Explain it.
No, I am
Please.
not explaining this at all. I'm not even investing any energy into it. It's just hilarious. There was a
Really?
social media influencer that was doing makeup, and they were like, "Oh, I'm very demure and mindful about how I do this," and that just launched a whole trend. It's a trend. It's a trend on social media right now. The demure mindful thing. Just yeah, you Google that.
Some of the trends are just how they became trends is mind numbing to me.
It's ridiculous. And this trend has gotten way, way, way out of hand. Although I did see a school district use it really, really well the other day. And they said, you know why you stop when a bus puts the stop sign out? Because it's very demure and mindful. Also, it's the law. That was a really good play on the trend. But you got to look at it because it's one of the most obnoxious trends I've come across.
I mean, you go back to like remember planking
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
some of those things, and there's some trends now. I'm like, how? And my I have the internship and I have the groups, and I let them do a TikTok for our district, and they love to do the trends. And I told them
Mhm.
last year, I got so frustrated. I said, all you guys do is trends. You're some of the smartest teens in the country. How about you create a trend?
Do a
Some of
trend.
these
Yeah. Make a
trends
trend.
are
Yep.
worthless. So I said the next year we're creating trends. We're not following them. They don't catch on. I don't care. But like some of the ones that I've caught on, I'm like I don't even get it. And like there's one recent young gal that became very viral for something a little bit PG-13, and it was just like
Not PG-13. You mean?
right, well above PG-13.
Mhm.
And like and she's like on Bill Maher, she's on all
Oh,
these
she's set for
podcasts.
life. Yeah.
But I'm like, because of she said one line that a few people thought was kind of funny because they're like an eight. I just don't
Yep.
get it.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
it's a total crapshoot. But then you see all the copycats trying to get that fame, and
Yep.
you see like these dance shuffles and these people doing it, and you feel so bad because they have no likes, they have no comments, and they're trying so hard. They're investing all this time to be TikTok famous, and it's like, it's just sad. Honestly, some of it is so sad.
Yeah. It's interesting. The social media landscape.
Yeah,
Anyway. Yeah,
man.
well, you got to look up Demure Mindful. It's ridiculous.
I don't think I want to. I'm actually so glad I don't know what that is.
I don't know how you've missed it. That's funny.
I know because I see all the other stupid ones.
Yep.
That is funny. Hey, if you need help with your communications and what you're doing at your school district or your organization, Nickel Strategies, they come in, they help you. They have so many good people doing so many good things. School status, if you're lacking in attendance, need some community parent engagement, they do so much in that respect. Really good stuff. Peach Jar, they do. They
shout
do
out to Peach Jar.
everything. Peach Jar is Peach Jar, and
Hey, and I just want to say, man, we have a whole new parent and guardian experience at Peach Jar now, and it has totally changed the way parents are able to interact and connect with community resources, both locally and nationally, which is amazing. So if you haven't checked us out in a while, definitely do it. Give us a call. We'll give you a demo. We'll get you set up.
that's so debonair of you.
Aha, very mindful.
So mindful. And S'more, they do so much for communications, amazing newsletters, seamless. It's so easy to use. And by the way, just talking to those folks, and you can try S'more for free. Check it out. You can send up to 3 newsletters. You can send one to yourself, but you can go in and just kind of mess around with it, see the templates. Super easy to use, but you can go try it for free. Don't need to talk to anybody. You just go, sign up, see if you like it, and give them a try.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, Matthew. Great chatting with you. I hope you have a great few days ahead until our next time. By the way, our last podcast, 116, we talked about dealing with death and crisis communications, a very sensitive topic, which is always, we talked about the difficulty of media relations and navigating some of those social media groups. This was another very difficult issue that a lot of us have to deal with, unfortunately. But I think we had some very good ideas on how to make that easier for everyone. Episode 115, passing a school bond. So many school districts are going out for school bonds throughout the country. And principals are so important to our communications. Episode 114, we talked to Dr. Dillman and Dr. Liu about principal communications and what strategies your principal could use. So if you want to do some principal PD, help them with communications, get them some ideas from 2 principals that do it really well, I would send them episode 114 of the School PR Podcast.
Yeah.
Matthew, thank you as always. You are a smart man. You are debonair. You are classy. You are mindful. You are elegant. You are all those things.
Yeah, don't say that. Back at you, brother. Back at you. It's always good hanging out, my man.
Always a pleasure.
Be sure to follow the School PR Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and X, where you can find additional resources and highlights from the show. Please like, subscribe, and all the fun stuff. And most importantly, without our sponsors, this podcast doesn't exist. Please visit schoolstatus.com, peachjar.com, nickelstrategies.com, and smore.com. Until next time, keep learning, inspiring, and making a difference. Thanks so much for your support of the School PR Podcast.